Hello, everyone. It's Brian with you. And by now, you're probably either thinking you're desperate to know what my number one Smith song is, or you're desperate for this to be to be over. In any case, this is number 8 of my ranking of Smith's tracks. This will be tracks 8 through 1. We started at number 73, and here we are with just 8 left. So if you're a big Smiths fan, you'll probably know which songs I haven't talked about yet. So you might be thinking about that. Just to remind you, thinking about the top 10, number 10 was Still Ill, number 9 was Please, 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 Let Me Get What I Want. And number 8, I have chosen William, It Was Really Nothing, which was released as a single in 1984. Also appears on things like Hatful of Hollow, Louder Than Bombs, etc. This is a really, really great song. I love the sound of this song. Of course, like many Smith songs, it's a bit difficult to figure out what exactly he's singing about. And there's been lots of speculation. So, who is William that he's speaking about? Some people say it could be Billy Mackenzie, who was in the Associates. And interestingly, they recorded or performed a song in 1993 called Stephen, You're Really Something, which seems to be a response to William, It Was Really Nothing. And who knows what that's all about? I don't know. There's many people approach Smith songs always through a gay lens, which is probably fair enough. So there's this idea that I read somewhere years ago that this song is about a gay man and a married couple, a love triangle of sorts. It could be lots of different things. It could be that Morrissey's telling a friend not to get married because some of the lyrics sort of suggest that. But if you want to see an interesting video, if you look at the top of the Pops performance of this track, at one point you can see, well, throughout the whole thing, or part of the thing anyway, Morrissey has Marry Me written on his chest, which is kind of funny. So really great lyrics. It has a really great sound to it. At some point he talks about how can you stay with a fat girl who'll say, oh, would you like to marry me? And if you like, you can buy the ring. So the idea that how can you do that? He doesn't. At one point, he sings, I don't dream of anyone except myself," which makes me laugh because maybe that's true. So who knows what this song is about? This has the most epic B-side of any Smiths 12-inch single, but we'll get to that later. Number 7 is a bit of an obscure song because it was never released as a single or a B-side. Did not appear on Louder Than Bombs or The World Won't Listen. It seems to only appear in the early records on Hatful of Hollow on side 1, and it's called Handsome Devil. So a bit of a weirdly obscure track. I don't know why it was ignored. It has a really hard driving sound, a bit punkish. When it came out, there was some sort of accusation that, if you look at the lyrics, it might make sense. They assumed that Morrissey was some sort of a pedophile, but he has claimed he doesn't even like children. I think I believe him on that. I don't see why he would. But is it about a younger man with an older man? There's been some speculation that it could just be about sexual frustration, or that it could be about a teacher thinking about his students. So, the lyrics are really great. So, all the streets are crammed with things, eager to be held. I know what hands are for, and I'd like to help myself. And I would like to give you what I think you're hoping for, or what I think you're asking for, you handsome devil. But then the handsome devil would seem to be a man, but then at some point he sings, let me get my hands on your mammary glands, let me get your head on the conjugal bed. So that's kind of a flip, which may suggest something else. So then there's these sort of more sexual things, like I crack the whip and you skip, but you deserve it, which I think is a pretty good line. A boy in the bush is worth two in the hands. I think I can help you get through your exams. What's that about? And then probably the most salacious line is, and when we're in your scholarly room, who will swallow whom? So that's kind of an interesting line. But this is a really great track, and I'm surprised it only really appears here, until later compilations, of course. Number 6 from The Queen Is Dead again is a track called Cemetery Gates, and famously it's spelled incorrectly here. It's Cemetry. That's not how you spell cemetery. And the story goes that Morrissey was told that there was an error, but he didn't want to fix it. And in fact, when he sings it, he sings cemetery, so maybe that's why. But it's a very short song. It's only 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Apparently, when Johnny Marr wrote the music, he didn't like the music, but Morrissey really liked it and thought he could work with it. Seems to be about a fascination with death, but it's also a song about plagiarism at some level, which is kind of funny. So I'll just read this quote that I think it's great. I think it's from Wikipedia. It was extremely ironic, if not deliberately self-parodic, of Morrissey to address the issue of plagiarism in a song which itself brazenly incorporates words which weren't his own. It's great. So the idea is it's a sunny day and they go to the cemetery gates, and the famous opening paragraph, Keats and Yeats are on your side while Wilde is on mine, while Oscar Wilde. So another incident of Wilde being brought up. He talks about how they go in and they gravely read the stones. He reflects on the people who had lives and loves and passions and hates just like him, and then they die. Seems so unfair that he wants to cry. Then there's a part where the person he's with starts quoting things as his own, and he says, you say those words as your own, but Morrissey's well read, so he knows they're not his. But then he himself plagiarizes something else. So it's kind of a great song. And then so we go where we're wanted. It's kind of funny to think about the cemeteries where he wanted. And Keats and Yeats on your side, but weird lover Wilde is on mine. So you could read that as Wilde being maybe wittier than those two, or the fact that Wilde was known to be gay, so maybe that's why he's on Morrissey's side. So an interesting track. Number 5 from the debut record, Hand in Glove, which is a fantastic track. It was, I think, their first single. It made the charts, the indie charts in England. I think did fairly well, but on the mainstream charts, it didn't perform very well. It's a really interesting track. I think the refrain I always liked is, "No, it's not like any other love. This one's different because it's us." And I think everyone probably thinks that at some point in their life. You may be hidden by rags, but we have something they'll never have. Hand in glove, the sun shines out of our behinds, which I think is a fantastic line. Excuse me. And at one point he sings, "Everything depends upon how near you sleep to me." And I didn't think about that line very much until many years later when I was thinking about a track from Leonard Cohen called "Take This Longing," and he sings, "Everything depends upon how near you stand to me." So maybe he borrowed that from Leonard Cohen. It's a good question. All right, here we go. Oh, number 4. Number 4, if you're guessing what this is, if you know the Smiths, you know what's missing. This is a 12-inch single for this charming man. Like some Smiths songs, there's more than one version. So this is the New York mix, which Morrissey famously hated. So there's this version, there's a version on the debut record, and then there's the other version on Hatful of Hollow, but I'm counting them all as one. So he disowned this and didn't like it. I mentioned a few cover versions as we go along. I didn't mention them all. Death Cab for Cutie, for example, covered this. And, there's some people suggest it's a protest against social norms. It could be, again, an older man with a younger person, but it's really catchy. This song is so catchy. If you listen to this and don't like it, I mean, how could you not like the song? It's so catchy. It starts out with him getting a flat tire on his bike, and he's wondering if nature will make a man of him. And what happens is it seems like a car shows up and offers him help or a ride, and he talks about the leather on the seats and that he would go out tonight, but he hasn't got a stitch to wear. Apparently, he never wanted to go out because he doesn't really know what to wear. He doesn't know his place. It's a little confusing exactly what it's about. A jumped-up pantry boy who never knew his place. He said, "Return the ring." He knows so much about these things. So I don't really know what it's about, but I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear. The man said, "It's gruesome that someone so handsome should care." So being told that it doesn't matter they have nothing to wear, why would you care about that? But this is a fantastic song, and one of my favorites. It's really great. Even the New York mix, which Morrissey didn't like, I think is fine. Okay, number 3 is a track that came out in 1986 and was released as a single in 2017, and that is the title track to "The Queen is Dead." This particular 12-inch version has, on the flip side, the 3 instrumentals that were way down on my list: "Oscillate Wildly," "Money Changes Everything," and "The Dre's Train." So this came out in 2017, and I have to say, I almost chose this as number 1. It's in the running because it is such a great track. I love how it opens the record. It starts with this little snippet from "Take Me Back to Dear Old Blighty, which is a World War II track. So there's that little chant in that track, and then it comes in with these really heavy drums and really interesting guitar work. Apparently, it sounds like a wild jam session, and maybe that's where it started from. Morrissey wanted that tie-in to take me back to Old Blighty, which is apparently sung by actress Cicely Courtnage. I don't know her, in a film called The L-Shaped Room. I don't know about that. Though it has a really cacophonic sound. Is that a word? Cacophonic? Blazing guitars, like really interesting drums. The bass line is really incredible too. And the lyrics are some of the weirdest ones I think Morrissey's ever written. So just listen to this. To this land's cheerless marshes, hemmed in like a boar between arches, her very lowness with a head in a sling. I'm truly sorry, but it sounds like a wonderful thing. This is clearly an anti-monarchist song. The next verse, I say, Charles, don't you ever crave to appear on the front of the Daily Mail, dressed in your mother's bridal veil? Like, imagine Charles doing that, but like, do you ever want to step out of that role that you have as being so proper and do something crazy? I checked all the registered historical facts, and I was shocked and ashamed to discover how I'm the 18th pale descendant of some old queen or other. Now, you could read that as he's descended from royalty, talking about the queen is dead, but you could also equally think maybe he's descended from a gay person. He himself would be, if he's gay, would be a queen, I guess. And then there's some really funny lines. There's some tragic lines about a 9-year-old who peddled drugs, and there's this really interesting thing. I broke into the palace with a sponge and a rusty spanner, which may suggest that the security at Buckingham Palace wasn't very good, because after all, there was a break-in before this. And the queen says to him, I know you and you cannot sing, which is classic because Morrissey doesn't have like a Frank Sinatra type voice. And he said, that's nothing, you should hear me play piano. So, and again, when you're tied to your mother's apron, no one talks about castration. He talks about the rain flattening his hair. These are the things that really make him upset. You walk past the pub that saps your body, in the church they want your money, the queen is dead, boys. This is if I was doing a 3-way tie for first, this would be there, because I think it's such a great song. And I'm not sure how other people rank it, maybe lower. Number 2 is another track that many people would have chosen for number 1. I think Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What You Want is often a favorite song. And this one, I can see why it would be number 1, and it just doesn't quite make it for me. And I'll show you this because it's on the Queen is Dead. And this is the 2017 Queen is Dead box. If you haven't seen this before, let me just show you this. Because it has The Queen is Dead, the original record, slightly different color scheme. So the original Queen is Dead record with the additional recordings, which include some demos, the full version of The Queen is Dead, which was on the 12-inch single, some demos, some B-sides that we've already seen. There's a Light That Never Goes Out. And then we have this really excellent Live in Boston from 1986. So I've already tipped the hat on that one. So the song that I'm choosing for number 2 is a track that many people choose as number 1, and it's There Is a Light That Never Goes Out from this record. And it was a 3rd single, but the 3rd single wasn't released until 1992 to promote a best of compilation. New Musical Express, I think in 2014, listed it as the 12th greatest song of all time. I think it's the most romantic Smiths song ever. And some people have compared it to Rebel Without a Cause because Morrissey was a big fan of Rebel Without a Cause. Now, the crux of the song is that essentially he'd rather die in someone's car in a horrific car crash than have to go home alone. So he's on this perfect night, experiencing what is his greatest happiness ever, and he doesn't want it to end. Life cannot get any better than the present. So rather get crashed into by a double-decker bus than have to go home to a place that isn't his anymore. So he sings, Take Me Out Tonight, where there's music and there's people and they're young and alive. Driving in your car, never want to go home. And then he sings, and if a double-decker bus crashes into us, to die by your side, it's such a heavenly way to die. And if a 10-ton truck kills the both of us, to die by your side, well, the pleasure, the privilege is mine. That is so fantastic. I just can't even describe how amazing that is. And Johnny Marr loved this song. Apparently, I've heard that if you crank this at the end on some versions, you can hear him saying, that's amazing. But yeah, really, probably clearly the most romantic Smith song. A brilliant piece of music, and it comes close to being number one, but it's just edged out a little bit by. And if you're a Smith song, you already know what this is. Let's just go back to this record, because the B-side of this record is How Soon Is Now. And please, please let me get what I want. And it appears. This is the 12-inch single. So originally released as a B-side because the record company didn't want it as a single, which is weird. And I understand what they're saying, because it's a very long track. It's the longest Smiths track. It's famously in F sharp. There's very little variation in the sound of the music. It has a kind of a swampy sound to it. There's references to Bo Diddley in terms of the music and the sound of it. I think, just think about the song title. The song title is probably the most incredible title ever. How Soon Is Now? So amazing, amazing. A bit psychedelic, an anthem for the alienated. Clearly about Morrissey's shyness. I mean, I can't say... the song to me is gripping, how it's been gripping. Like, I just have to listen to the whole thing. It's very atmospheric. As I said, it sounds a lot different from other Smith songs. And famously, it's really difficult to play live, so it posed a problem for the Smiths how to play this song live. There are some videos on YouTube that talk about how it was recorded, and if you're interested in that song, you should check it out, because it's really interesting how they had to record it. Jeff Buckley was apparently a huge fan of the song. And if you know the song Hippie Chick by Soho, it's reused in there. Very influential song. But let's just think about the shyness. I am the son, S-O-N, and the heir, H-E-I-R, of a shyness that is criminally vulgar. I am the son and heir of nothing in particular. And apparently that comes from Middlemarch, invisible heir to nothing in particular, George Eliot. You shut your mouth, how can you say I go about things the wrong way? I'm human and I need to be loved, just like everybody else does. He talks about being a shyness that is criminally vulgar. And then this is fantastic. I think so many people would relate to this, which I think is why it's so popular. There's a club, if you'd like to go, you could meet somebody who really loves you. So you go and you stand on your own, and you leave on your own, and you go home and you cry and you want to die. When you say it's going to happen now, what exactly do you mean? I've already waited too long, and all my hope is gone. So that is, I think, just phenomenal lyrics, and this is my top Smith song. Favorite Smith song, always has been, and I'm sure always will be, but number 2 and 3 give it a bit of the run for the money. But anyway, we're done with the Smiths. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.